Hey crew, what it do? It's your girl, A-True, and you guys are watching my YouTube channel. So I just want to start out by saying that I am extremely nervous to make this video. I have thought about it for about a week now and just finally decided that it needs to be done, it needs to be said. And I just want to tell everyone watching that I promise, if I did not truly think that this would benefit other people and this would be for the greater good, or wouldn't be for the greater good, then I would not be making this video. So I don't want anyone to think that I am trying to pick sides. I don't want anyone to think that I am trying to make light of any situation that I'm going to talk about. I just am at a point in my life where my views have really been broadened and my mind has been opened for me, and just I feel like before I get into the story of what happened, I just feel like I was a very ignorant person. If you could tell from the title of this video, a tragedy has occurred around me, and it really just shaken me to the core. It has made me rethink a lot of things. It's made me see my whole viewpoint and my whole life differently. And so I am here to talk about it today. So in case you couldn't tell, because I know I'm sitting, it's hard to find an angle that will show both, but I am wearing a Black Lives Matter shirt, and I am also wearing a blue line hat. And just in case you don't know, I'll go ahead and explain both. Black Lives Matter is a movement and organization working to end police brutality against Black lives. Really any person of color, but it's Black Lives Matter. And I, since the very beginning, have been a huge supporter of Black Lives Matter. I think it's horrendous what happens to people of color in this country. And I just want to preface really fast that this is not me saying that I no longer support Black Lives Matter. This is not me saying that I don't believe in Black Lives Matter. But I was a person who wholeheartedly stood on the Black Lives Matter side. I just never really considered the other side. I didn't understand how people could even begin to support the alternative. I think a lot of people felt that if you chose to support the Blue Lives Matter movement, that you were racist, you enjoyed your white privilege, that you only cared about yourself, so on and so forth. July 27th, my best friend's husband, Nevada Highway Patrolman Micah May, badge number 6203, was murdered in the line of duty. I'm gonna go through the story a little later in the video, but I just wanted to kind of give you the synopsis of it really quick. So he was involved fatally in this high speed chase. He died from his injuries sustained in the, I don't know if you would call it a crash necessarily. He wasn't in his car when he was hit, so, but he succumbed to his injuries. He did not survive. And essentially, his death is what really rocked my world. I will admit to you guys, I was not super close with this man. He was married to my best friend. Jojo, his wife, my best friend, is the most amazing human being. And she has been my best friend since we were, I think, 15 and 16. She's a year older than me. We met in high school. But like I said, you know, I wouldn't go as far to say that I had my own relationship with Micah. You know, I knew what he did for a living. I knew he was highway patrol. Jojo and I have always stood on opposite sides of the political spectrum. She is a Republican and I am just her liberal best friend. I wouldn't say that we ever really discussed where she stood on Black Lives Matter or where she stood on Blue Lives Matter. She never asked me where I stood. I think because I was so open and honest with it on my other platforms that she didn't really need to ask me. She knew that I stood on the Black Lives Matter side of the line. And she never judged me for it, never tried to change my mind, never tried to be like, well, what about Micah? Like, what about the father of my children? And that is what I'm really going to be talking about today, because I was so ignorant to what the blue line meant, what the blue line included, and what the blue line stood for. Going back to the beginning, felt like if you supported the blue line, you were showing America that you didn't think there was a problem in this country, that you didn't think that people of color had a harder time in society than you do with white skin. I never thought about the fact that the blue line doesn't just symbolize the corrupt cops, the bad cops, the ones who abuse their power. It also includes anyone who puts on a uniform and is there to protect. That's what the blue line stands for, and that is what I didn't see before. I can tell you honestly that I never once worried that Micah would not make it home. Every time I went out to protest, every time I shared something online that was against cops and for Blue Lives Matter, I never once thought about the fact that my best friend was married to someone in that blue line family. That someone she was married to was the father of her 2 children. A 3-year-old little boy and a 10-month-old little girl have lost their father because he chose to live a life protecting others. He chose to put the safety of his community before his own safety. And that's what the blue line stands for. And I was too ignorant to see it. I was too close-minded. I was too one-sided. I stood on the wrong side of the line. I stood on the ignorant side of the line. I did not believe that you could support both. I did not think you could stand there and proudly wear something like this with a blue line on it in the state of the country that we're currently in, and at the same time out of your mouth comes, but I support Black Lives Matter. I do think there's a problem. I know that there are corrupt cops, but that doesn't mean they're all bad. I'm gonna tell the story now of how Micah died. So if you're not okay with, I'm not gonna give every detail because that's just not my business to tell. But if you're sensitive or squeamish, I guess, maybe just skip this part of the video. There was a person, we'll call him the killer. He got into someone's car at a construction site, and the keys were left in the car. This person saw the killer in their car and was like, hey dude, like, get out of my car. It's my car. And so this killer then pulled out a knife and stole the car. So when that happened, obviously the car was reported as stolen, and I'm not sure out of the 3 or 4 different groups that were involved in the chase which one got them found him first. basically this guy went all over town within 45 minutes. And so I'm not sure if it works the same everywhere, so that's why I want to tell the story. And this is just from what I know from talking to my best friend and talking to other dispatchers and talking to other officers. This is just what I have gathered and put together from what they have told me has happened. Feel free to like Google it in case I get anything wrong, or if you want like, I don't know, more details or just a more professional way to like look at it and read it. Basically, once this guy was on the run, whose ever territory he was in was who was leading the chase. And so I believe he went from like the streets onto the freeway, which then it became highway patrolman's chase, and then he got off the freeway in another area of town. We'll just say like North Las Vegas. So then it became North Las Vegas's chase, and then he got back on the freeway, so then it became Nevada Highway Patrolman's chase. That doesn't mean that all other groups or squads, I'm so sorry, I don't know the correct way to say it, leave. They just simply fall back and let whoever's territory he's in takes the lead on the chase. So because he was on the freeway, it was Nevada Highway Patrol's chase. Now we have a no chase law here in Nevada, so that means that if someone is not pulling over when an officer, a highway patrolman, tries to pull them over, they will just eventually let you go because it's not worth it. It's not worth the risk. High-speed chases, I've been told, typically end badly if they continue, so they will usually just let the person go. The only reason that they were continuously chasing this man for over 40 minutes was because he had a knife, because he had a weapon, and they were afraid that once that car ran out of gas or once it stopped working for him, that he could potentially harm another person to get their car, you know, if he was continuously going to be on the run. So that is the only reason that they were chasing him. So I'm not going to tell you every detail because it would just be such a long video. But basically, Micah was meant to be laying down something called spike strips. Now, guys, I'm not in law enforcement. I don't know much about it. I'm going off of memory of what people have told me and explained to me what it meant. But from what I understand, you lay it across the freeway or wherever the car is going to drive over, and there's like a pull cord attached to it. And once the car either starts to go over it or is about to go over it, Micah was meant to pull the cord, and that's what like pops the tires or damage them in some way or slows the car down in some way. I'm not positive. I'm sure you could Google how they work. Like I said, they had been chasing this guy for over 40 minutes. So they had tried 2 times prior, well, I should say 3 times prior, to stop the vehicle. At one point they had tried to box him in and he got out of it. They had tried 2 previous times to lay down something. I don't think it was a spike strip. I believe Micah was the first one to use a spike strip. The first 2 officers, I want to say, tried something else, and this man simply just went around them. And so he never went over the things that were supposed to pop his tires. I'm not positive though, don't quote me, but I think that's what I was told. So then Micah laid his strips down, but Micah was there to be hit, I guess. Not to be hit, that's obviously not the goal, but he wasn't just standing off to the side. He was there to pull the cord. And I think someone told me he did it, like he pulled the cord before he got hit, but I don't know. But if he did, you know, he did what he was supposed to do, obviously. But basically, Micah went head first through the windshield, and this guy kept driving with him in the car. I don't know how much of it was leaked to the press. The audio was released. Again, I don't know what parts were released. I heard the whole thing, and it's like 41 minutes long. Once Micah was struck, you can hear the other officers screaming. 203 was hit, 203 was hit, and then there's another one saying, I don't see him, I don't see him, and then someone else says he's in the car, and then they all just kind of start begging for permission to ram the vehicle. You know, they're just screaming, permission to ram, because again, we have a no chase law, and I believe someone told me that Nevada highway patrolmen have a no hit law, I guess. I'm not positive. But so they needed permission to hit the vehicle. And so they got permission. The whole time this guy's driving with Micah in his windshield. Micah, thank God, we believe, kind of knocked out as soon as he made contact with the windshield. We're pretty sure he wasn't aware of what was going on. On the audio, you cannot hear Micah in pain. You can't hear him doing anything. So, you know, we're pretty sure that he didn't die, but that he, like, you know, got knocked out. So they hit the car spins and stops, and I want to say there's about 4 vehicles right in front of it by the time it stops spinning. It faces the 4 cars that are there. They're like police cars and highway patrolman cars. Like, you can Google it. There's videos of it. And they believe that this man then reached for Micah's gun, and so they opened fire on him. Because these people are so talented and just gifted and trained in what they do, not one single bullet hit Micah. But they opened fire on the driver, so he died on the scene. Not that it matters. And Micah was airlifted to the hospital, and he was on life support. He had several surgeries, I think, 1 or 2 at least. His injuries were horrific. I'm not going to give the details because, again, it's not my business to tell. And I did not ask his wife's permission to give those details. She did give me permission to make this video. 2 days after being hit, they did a test to see if there was any brain activity, and there was none. So Jojo had to make the decision to pull the plug and take her husband, the father of her 2 children, off of life support. The reason I'm including the story of how he died is for 2 reasons. One, I'm going to link the donation link down below, so that way if anyone wants to or feels called to and wants to donate to Jojo, you can. But also because it again ties in with my new broadened look on life, I guess you could say. Micah was not killed by a person of color. Micah was murdered by a crazy meth head, basically. It just shows you how ignorant I was. I know there's probably some people watching this like, well, dude, if he wasn't killed by a person of color, then why are you bringing Black Lives Matter into it? Like, why are you making it about race? Why are you making it like the 2 coincide? Point is that for so long, I stood on this side of the line shouting and screaming, Black Lives Matter, cops don't matter, defund the police. You know, they all abuse their power. They're all trigger happy. It doesn't matter. You know, I was just ignorant. I never, you know, I mean, I can remember a few times, and I hope Jojo doesn't hate me after she hears this because I don't think I've ever told her, but I can remember a few times where someone would be like, oh, he's a highway patrolman? Like, that's so awesome. That's so brave of him. And I was just like, what do you mean? Like, when you call 911, it ain't Micah at your door. Like, he's not doing anything. Like, he hands out speeding tickets. Big whoop. Jojo, I apologize profusely for that. But that's how ignorant I was to it. That's how ignorant I was to the danger that every single form of law enforcement faces every day. This tragedy has really just, I'm gonna read you guys something that someone sent me. It's actually my ex-boyfriend. I'm not gonna say exactly what my ex-boyfriend does for a living because I just feel like he wouldn't want me to, but let's just say he is a part of the law enforcement family. So I reached out to him because I was like, one, I was just not okay. I was filled with this huge, overpowering, crippling sense of guilt because I never once considered Micah. I never once considered Jojo and her family. I never once considered my ex-boyfriend and the risk that they all took every day. I never once thought about it. You know, to me, it was like I supported Black Lives Matter because I believed there were corrupt cops. And if you supported Blue Lives Matter, you were just an idiot. Because I was one of those people that was like, Blue Lives Matter is not a thing. That is the dumbest thing I have ever heard. You make a choice to be a blue life. You make a choice to put on that uniform. You made a choice to pick that career. People of color do not get to choose that. It's the way that they're born. They don't get to take it off at the end of the day. They don't get to make that decision the same way you do. So why are you comparing it? Why are you saying that blue lives matter? That you don't matter. You don't. Like, that was my mindset. I was like, your career is not who you are. That is so different. That is so completely different. I just want to say to anyone out there that is watching this, that is a part of the Blue Lives family in any way, or if you know someone who is, or married to someone, or related to someone, that I am sorry for my ignorance, and I am sorry for where I stood, and I am sorry for the things that I said, and I am sorry that I never once considered the risk and the safety that you all face every day, every single time you put on that uniform. I used to jokingly say that my ex-boyfriend checked IDs for a living. You know, I used to jokingly say to him, like, calm down, Paul Blart. You're not out there saving lives. You're not out there protecting anyone. But he is. Like, his job is so important. And that's why I felt like I owed him this apology. You know, again, Micah and I didn't have our own relationship. It's a guilt that I'm gonna have to carry around for the rest of my life. That I never took the time to get to know Micah. That I never took the time to understand what kind of person he was. Because it takes a really, really special kind of person to take that risk, to put other people's lives and safety above yours and your family's. And I never gave him credit for it. And yeah, maybe statistically it was less likely for him to not make it home than a regular everyday cop, but that doesn't mean that the risk didn't matter. I can never thank Micah. I can never tell him I'm sorry. I can never make it up and get to know him. You know, when he passed away, I have these two friends, Emerald and Elizabeth, and we three all really leaned on each other when this happened, because we're all friends with Jojo. Elizabeth even worked with Micah, and there was one day, about 4 or 5 days after they pulled the plug, that Emerald and I took some food to the highway patrolman, because we just wanted to do something for them. You know, we knew that a lot of them were working overtime. We knew that they had all lost a friend and a coworker and someone in their family. I just learned so much about Micah and who he was. I learned that he was extremely good at his job. I learned that he took it very seriously. And I learned that he had several medals for acts of bravery, for taking someone out when they were a danger to others. I learned that he had been involved in many chases, that he pulled over and helped people who needed their tires changed, that he just went out of his way to make sure the community was safe. And I really wish that it hadn't taken this tragedy for me to know that. I really wish that I had bothered to get to know him beforehand. For him and for Jojo and for his babies. This video is to hopefully show you that that blue line doesn't just represent corrupt cops. It represents every single law enforcement person that puts on a uniform. It represents their families. It represents their children. Those two babies are gonna grow up knowing that their dad was a hero, because he was. There are bad people in every profession. Look at the Me Too movement. How many people in the entertainment industry has it come out that they drugged women, or that they assaulted women, or that they blackmailed women for whatever they wanted from them, or that they were treated horribly on set? They were called into meetings and then they didn't turn out to be meetings and they got sexually assaulted. You know, I don't think one time anyone has ever said, well, let's just stop making movies because clearly, like, there's some bad seeds. I have several friends who are people of color, and I don't want this to be taken as like, okay, so now, like, you're a cop lover, like, now, you know, fuck Black Lives Matter, it's all about the blue lives. I hope that that is not what anyone takes from this video, because what I hope people take from this video is that that blue line, I know I keep saying it, but I was so ignorant to it, and I don't want someone else to have to experience this tragedy that I have experienced and that Jojo has experienced to understand what that blue line means. But I want people to take away that you can support both, that you can believe that there are a few bad cops out there, but that cop lives do still matter, that you can believe that there are people of color who are treated badly and discriminated against, and that it's not fair and something needs to be done about it. Because that's where I stand now, and that's what I believe. I support Blue Lives Matter. I support Black Lives Matter, because I think both are important, and I don't think that you can just wipe out one or the other and all the problems of the world will go away. This video is to show anyone out there who thinks like me, or thinks like I used to, that you can only support one, that it's, that the line is black or blue, and it's not. You can support both. We need to support both, because there are good cops. There are the ones who do it for the right reasons. That's where I stand, and that's why, even though Micah did not lose his life to a person of color, I still felt that it needed to be brought into this discussion, because my ex-boyfriend put it into much better words than I could. So I'm going to read you what he wrote really quick. He said, "Your core beliefs have been shattered, beliefs that you spent your whole life building. It will take time for you to reevaluate and adjust your beliefs to fit the world as you see it now. Your world perspective has permanently shifted." And when he said that to me, I just felt like no truer words had been spoken. It was exactly how I felt. I felt when Micah died, and you know, they started making t-shirts and hats and buttons and masks and ribbons and all these things to support, and I suddenly was like, didn't even hesitate. I was like, of course I'll buy it. Like, of course I'm gonna support my best friend. And then it hit me like, yeah, but dude, it's got a blue line on it. Like, when people see you with that blue line, this is what they're gonna think. Especially because you're a white girl with white privilege. Like, they're not gonna believe you when you say you support Black Lives Matter. I just feel like this country is in such a divide. And I think people like me were a really big part of the problem, because we can only see one side. And I know that I could really get a lot of hate for this video, and no matter how many times I say it, there could be people that watch this and just think like, fuck that, if you support the blue line in any way, you're against Black Lives Matter. And I'm sorry you feel that way, you're entitled to feel that way, but it's not true, it's not how I feel. I'm sorry if anyone sees this and thinks, fuck that, if you support Black Lives Matter, then you don't support Blue Lives Matter. But I do. I wholeheartedly support both. And I wanted people to know why. I felt that I needed to share my story and what I'm going through and what I'm currently trying to do and fix my ways of thinking and my closed-mindedness and my ignorance, and I'm trying to be better and do better. I'm going to link the IPOF Foundation link, the Injured Police Officers Fund. If you have it in your heart, or if you have it to spare, Jojo and her 2 babies could use all the support that she can get. I want to give a special thanks to Elizabeth and Emerald for getting me through those first 2 weeks. Without your support, your constant Snapchats, your phone calls, your text messages, I don't know what I would have done. I want to thank my ex-boyfriend for forgiving me for being so ignorant, and I want to thank him for being there for me. Those first 2 weeks, there were so many times where I would just sob to the camera and tell him what was wrong, and he would just know exactly what to say to calm me down and to give me a peace of mind, even if it was just for a moment, and even if in the next moment the guilt and the hurt came rushing back to me. He never left me alone to deal with my own thoughts. He never got mad at me, never blamed me. He accepted my apology. Hi, this is Editing Ashley, just popping in. I realized, because I didn't have them in front of me, because I didn't film that video at my desk. If you couldn't tell, here's my messy ass room. I was saying just a second ago that, you know, the guilt that I felt for being so ignorant and closed-minded and standing on the wrong side of things, you know, was really crippling and hard to deal with. And I obviously could not lean on Jojo because Jojo was going through her own grief, so I really leaned on my ex-boyfriend because I felt like he was a part of the Blue Line family, so he understood what it meant to lose someone in the Blue Line family. But one of the things I did, besides lean on them, or him, and lean on Emerald and Elizabeth as well, they were there, was I wrote a letter to Micah, to Jojo, and to my ex-boyfriend, because I just had so much pain and I needed to let it out, and I felt so much guilt and I didn't want to bombard Jojo, and my ex-boyfriend and I were only talking over Snapchat, and so I didn't want to send him like an entire essay, and obviously I couldn't tell Micah. Micah will obviously never read his letter. Maybe the other two will, I don't know. I guess if they see this and they want it, they're more than welcome to. Like, I felt like I had so much to say to everyone and so much I wanted to apologize for. And we all know that when I'm in that state, of just like lost, depression, heartbroken, like upsetness, that I tend to make bad decisions. And I hadn't asked Jojo permission yet to make this video, so I couldn't turn on the camera like I normally do. Anyway, the point of me bringing these up now is because, like, that's how fucked up I was. That's how distraught and, like, not okay I was. That I wrote a letter to my best friend's dead husband, who was never gonna read it. I wrote a letter to my ex-boyfriend, who doesn't give a fuck, and to my best friend, who has other things to deal with than my guilt. Like, I'm not okay. Just wanted to throw that in there. Okay, back to the good video. And I want to give a thank you to Jojo for being my absolute best friend, and for not hating me and holding it against me when I stood on the wrong side, Jojo. I love you so much. And I am going to be there for you and the babies the way that you have always been there for me. I want to thank Micah's parents and family for raising him and making him the man that he was. I want to give a thank you to all the troopers out there that took the time to talk to me and tell me things about Micah, that came over to me when I was breaking down at any event, whether it was the candlelight or the funeral, to anyone who hugged me and held my hand when I couldn't hold it together. Even though they probably didn't even know why I was so torn up internally. But it's just, this guilt has been crippling, to say the least. I want to give a thank you to all the law enforcement out there, the military, the police, the EMTs, the firefighters, the highway patrolmen, and anyone else I'm forgetting in this moment. And I want to give a thank you to Micah. Micah, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I never took the chance to get to know you better. I'm so sorry that I didn't give you enough credit for the type of man that you were, for the type of husband that you were, and for the type of father that you were. You didn't deserve this fate. Nobody wanted this for you. I wish I could tell you this. I'm so sorry, and I want to thank you for being a great father to your kids, a great husband to Jojo, and a great patrolman to this city. Thank you so much for everything you did, and for all the lives you protected, and for all the lives that you changed. Thank you for being a hero, Micah. You were a much better person than I was. I think that's it. I hope everyone understood what I was trying to say with this video. If you can, one last time, please consider donating to the IPOF. I'm going to link it down below. And everyone, stay safe out there.
Henry 6203 status. Henry 6203 status. Henry 6203 status. This channel is code red for Henry 6203. No response on a status check. This is a final call for Trooper Micah May. Henry 6203, do you copy? Attention citizens, friends, and family. Trooper Micah May, Nevada Highway Patrol call sign Henry 6203, lost his life while serving his community with dignity, courage, and valor. We thank him for his dedication, loyalty, and service to the citizens of the state of Nevada. Trooper May influenced many for his unending compassion, respect for all people, and service in many facets of law enforcement. All those he served will remember him. Trooper May, please rest in peace, knowing that your legacy will live on through your blood family, as well as your brothers and sisters in blue. Your sacrifice will never be forgotten. Trooper Micah May, Henry 6203, your end of watch 1042 time is July 29th, 2021 at 10:43 hours. Godspeed, sir. Rest in peace. We have it from here.